The world held its breath. Barack Obama, a figure known for his measured words, had just spoken about Burkina Faso, not with the usual diplomatic pleasantries, but with genuine admiration. It was a moment that crackled with surprise. News outlets buzzed. Social media exploded. A model of self-reliant and dignified leadership, he'd said, referring to the small West African nation and its young president, Ibrahim Traoré. Why Burkina Faso? Many wondered. The country wasn't a global superpower. It wasn't overflowing with resources. What it possessed, Obama suggested, was something far more valuable, a commitment to its own people, a refusal to simply accept the status quo. His words carried weight. For years, many had looked to outside forces for solutions to Africa's challenges. Foreign aid, international loans, experts from afar. But Obama's praise hinted at a different path, one where the answers came from within. He spoke of Traoré's vision, a vision rooted in the belief that Burkina Faso could chart its own course, independent and strong. The former president's unexpected endorsement wasn't just a pat on the back. It was a challenge to the world's assumptions, a spotlight on a nation daring to do things differently. It was a call to look closer, to understand what made Burkina Faso's approach so remarkable. It was a seed of hope planted in the global conversation about Africa's future. President Traoré stood before his nation, the weight of Obama's words still hanging in the air. He wasn't a man used to grand pronouncements or elaborate celebrations. Humility etched his features as he addressed the crowd. Obama's praise, he admitted, was deeply moving. But it wasn't a reason to rest. It was a call to action. "We have been recognized," he declared, his voice resonating with conviction, "not for what we have received, but for what we are striving to become." And then he unveiled it, the Sovereign Future Program, an ambitious plan born not in some distant international conference, but from the very soil of Burkina Faso. It wasn't about begging for handouts or accepting prepackaged solutions. It was about building from the ground up, empowering communities to take control of their own destinies. The program was a tapestry woven with three threads: education, innovation, and self-sufficiency. Schools would be revamped, not to mimic Western models, but to teach skills relevant to Burkina Faso's needs. Innovation hubs would sprout up in villages, fostering local ingenuity and entrepreneurship. And, most importantly, the nation would strive for self-sufficiency in food, energy, and resources, breaking free from the chains of dependency. Traoré's vision was clear: a Burkina Faso that stood tall, not because of foreign aid, but because of its own strength. A nation that carved its own path, guided by its own values. The Sovereign Future Program was more than just words on paper. It was a living, breathing thing, taking root in the villages and towns of Burkina Faso. The heart of the program lay in its three core principles: education, innovation, and self-sufficiency, pillars designed to support a future free from dependence. Education wasn't just about textbooks and classrooms. It meant teaching practical skills that could transform lives. New schools were built, not as replicas of those in other countries, but as centers of learning tailored to the needs of the community. Children learned about farming techniques suited to their land, about renewable energy sources that could power their homes, and about starting small businesses that could lift their families out of poverty. Innovation wasn't confined to laboratories and universities. It thrived in the ingenuity of everyday people. Village workshops became hubs of creativity, where blacksmiths tinkered with new tools, farmers experimented with drought-resistant crops, and women designed energy-efficient stoves. The program provided small grants and technical support, empowering these local innovators to turn their ideas into reality. Self-sufficiency was the ultimate goal. Burkina Faso aimed to feed itself, power itself, and build itself. Farmers received training and resources to increase their yields. Renewable energy projects harnessed the power of the sun and wind. Local industries were supported to produce goods that were once imported. The Sovereign Future Program was a bold experiment, a testament to the belief that a nation's greatest resource is its own people. The launch of the Sovereign Future program didn't just resonate within Burkina Faso. It sent ripples across the African continent and beyond. Suddenly, a global dialogue ignited, centered on a simple but profound question. Could Africa solve its own problems? For decades, the narrative had been one of dependence. African nations were often portrayed as helpless recipients of foreign aid, perpetually reliant on the generosity of wealthier countries. But Traoré's program challenged this very notion. It dared to suggest that Africa possessed the resources, the talent, and the ingenuity to chart its own course. The world began to take notice. News articles explored the program's innovative approach. Development experts debated its potential impact. Social media buzzed with opinions, both skeptical and supportive. Some questioned whether Burkina Faso, a relatively small and resource-constrained nation, could truly succeed in its ambitious endeavor. Others hailed it as a beacon of hope, a symbol of African resilience and self-determination. Universities organized forums to discuss the merits of homegrown solutions. Think tanks published reports analyzing the program's strategies. Even international organizations, traditionally focused on top-down aid initiatives, began to explore ways to support bottom-up approaches. The Sovereign Future program had inadvertently sparked a global conversation, forcing the world to reevaluate its assumptions about Africa's capabilities and potential. The question wasn't just about Burkina Faso anymore. It was about the future of an entire continent. Amidst the global discussions and debates, the real impact of the Sovereign Future program was unfolding on the ground, in the lives of ordinary Burkinabe people. Fatou was one of them. Fatou lived in a small village, where opportunities for women were scarce. For years, she had struggled to provide for her family, relying on meager harvests and occasional odd jobs. But the Sovereign Future program had opened a door for her. The program had established a carpentry training center in her village, offering women the chance to learn a valuable skill. Fatou hesitated at first. Carpentry was traditionally seen as a man's job, but the program encouraged her to defy expectations. With determination in her heart, Fatou enrolled in the program. She learned to use saws, hammers, and drills. She mastered the art of shaping wood into furniture, doors, and windows. And she discovered a talent she never knew she possessed. Now, Fatou wasn't just a student. She was a teacher. She shared her skills with other women in the village, empowering them to earn a living and support their families. The Carpentry Center had become a symbol of hope, a testament to the transformative power of education and opportunity. Fatou's story was just one of many, a glimpse into the human impact of Traoré's vision. It was a story of empowerment, resilience, and the unwavering belief in a brighter future. Not far from Fatou's village, in the fertile plains of the countryside, lived a young boy named Mamadou. For generations, his family had toiled on land they didn't own, barely scraping by as tenant farmers. Their lives were dictated by the whims of wealthy landowners, leaving them with little security or hope. But the Sovereign Future program had also reached Mamadou's community, bringing with it a promise of land reform. The government, under Traoré's leadership, began redistributing land to the people who worked it, giving them a chance to own their own farms. Mamadou's family was among the first to benefit. They received a small plot of land, enough to grow crops and raise livestock. For the first time in their lives, they felt a sense of ownership and control over their own destiny. Mamadou, who once spent his days helping his parents on the land, now had the opportunity to go to school. He learned to read and write, to understand the principles of sustainable agriculture, and to dream of a future beyond the fields. The land reform program had not only improved Mamadou's family's economic situation, but had also given him a chance to pursue his education and unlock his full potential. He was a symbol of hope, a testament to the transformative power of land ownership and opportunity. Mamadou's story, like Fatou's, showed that the Sovereign Future program was not just about grand plans and global dialogues. It was about changing lives, one village, one family, one child at a time. As Fatou and Mamadou's story spread, support for the Sovereign Future program grew, not just within Burkina Faso, but across the African continent. Other nations saw in Traoré's initiative a blueprint for their own development, a way to break free from the cycle of dependency and chart their own course. African leaders began to publicly endorse the program, sharing their own experiences with homegrown solutions and calling for greater collaboration among African nations. Civil society organizations organized campaigns to raise awareness and mobilize support. And ordinary citizens, inspired by the stories of Fatou and Mamadou, contributed their time and resources to the cause. Even some global figures, initially skeptical of Traoré's approach, began to grudgingly acknowledge the program's success. Among them was, surprisingly, Donald Trump. While his reasons were different from Obama's, focusing more on reducing foreign aid than on empowering local communities, the effect was the same: a reluctant acceptance of Burkina Faso's model. The growing support for the Sovereign Future program was a testament to its effectiveness and its resonance with people's aspirations for a better future. It showed that Africa was not just a continent of problems, but also a continent of solutions, driven by its own people and its own values. It was a sign that the world was finally beginning to listen. Despite the growing applause and international recognition, President Traoré remained grounded. He understood that true leadership wasn't about basking in the spotlight, but about delivering tangible results for his people. He saw the praise as encouragement, not a destination. While others celebrated the program's achievements, Traoré focused on the challenges that remained. He knew that there were still villages without access to education, communities struggling with food insecurity, and individuals facing barriers to opportunity. He spent his days traveling across the country, listening to the concerns of ordinary citizens. He met with farmers, teachers, entrepreneurs, and community leaders, seeking their input and guidance. He believed that the best solutions came not from government offices, but from the people themselves. Traoré resisted the temptation to expand the program too quickly or to impose top-down solutions. He understood that sustainable development required a patient and participatory approach, one that involved building trust, fostering collaboration, and empowering local communities to take ownership of their own future. He often repeated a simple phrase: "We are not building for them, but with them." This philosophy guided his every decision, ensuring that the Sovereign Future program remained true to its original vision: to empower the people of Burkina Faso to build a brighter future together. The world's applause was welcome, but the people's progress was his priority. The story of Burkina Faso and the Sovereign Future program offers a powerful lesson about leadership and development. It demonstrates that true progress isn't measured in accolades or foreign aid, but in the empowerment of a nation's own people. Traoré's approach, rooted in listening to his citizens and building with them, not for them, stands as a model for other nations seeking to break free from dependency and chart their own course. The stories of Fatou and Mamadou, and countless others like them, serve as a reminder that even the most ambitious programs are only as effective as their impact on individual lives. The Sovereign Future program wasn't a quick fix or a magic bullet. It was a long-term investment in education, innovation, and self-sufficiency, a testament to the belief that Africa's greatest resource is its own people. As the global dialogue continues, and as other nations grapple with the challenges of development, the example of Burkina Faso offers a valuable perspective. It suggests that the path to prosperity lies not in blindly following external models, but in embracing local ingenuity, fostering collaboration, and empowering communities to take control of their own destinies. The legacy of Traoré's leadership is not just about what he accomplished, but about the message he sent to the world. That true leadership starts by listening to your people and building with them, not for them. And that a sovereign future is within reach for any nation willing to embrace its own potential. The sun sets over Burkina Faso, casting long shadows across the field where Mamadou tends his family's land, and illuminating the carpentry workshop where Fatou teaches a new generation of women. These are not just stories of individual success. They are reflections of a nation's collective journey toward a sovereign future. The legacy of Obama's surprising praise, Traoré's humble leadership, and the Sovereign Future program extends far beyond Burkina Faso's borders. It serves as a beacon of hope, demonstrating the transformative power of self-belief, collaboration, and a commitment to empowering one's own people. The world continues to grapple with complex challenges: poverty, inequality, and dependence. But the story of Burkina Faso offers a simple, yet profound, lesson that true leadership isn't about seeking external validation or imposing external solutions. It's about listening to the voices of your people, understanding their needs, and working alongside them to build a better future. It's about recognizing that a nation's greatest asset isn't its natural resources or its political power, but the ingenuity, resilience, and determination of its citizens. It's about creating opportunities for everyone to thrive, regardless of their background or circumstances. In the end, the story of Burkina Faso is a story about the power of empowerment. It's a story that reminds us that every nation, every community, every individual has the potential to shape their own destiny. And that true leadership lies in unlocking that potential, one person, one village, one nation at a time.